We're back with a slightly different video. Let's test ChatGPT 5.4's ability to manage servers, right? We're using Opencode for this. So it's an open source equivalent of Claude Code, and we're using ChatGPT 5.4 codecs. Let's go ahead and get started with this. Then goal is we're trying to get Netbox installed. And then we're also going to use our network discovery tool, and we're going to build a Netbox tool and basically tie those two together and use network discovery to fill Netbox. We'll see how difficult that is and kind of what the process of doing something like that looks like. And then at the end, I'll benchmark and rate ChatGPT, and we'll see how well it did. Right, I went ahead and already set up my SSH keys. Let's drop into our session. We'll do SSH root at netbox. So let's confirm and see if it can see the SSH tool. All right. Debian based host. Okay. Do research. So before we proceed, I'm going to go ahead and hop on over to Proxmox, and we are going to. So in the background, we have Proxmox spun up, and we have our Netbox container, right? And it has 4 CPUs, 8 gigs of RAM. And we're going to take a snapshot of it before we begin. So we do pre-Netbox. That way, if it messes stuff up, we can roll back. But it is a clean image that has, regular updates and stuff. So snapshot is taken. Hop on back over to Opencode, and we'll see how it does with its first task. I'm probably going to end up walking away from this. The whole sell on AI is you don't have to be there to do the work. It's labor saving, right? Or at least mental labor saving. So let's see how well it does. So here's the prompt. Do research on how to install Netbox on Debian Trixie. Then install on root at Netbox. Configure and set up a user called agent user with admin creds. Enable API keys and respond back with API keys for use later, and with admin creds for manual verification. The more I use it, the more I know what I can kind of trust and not trust the AI with, right? So let's see. We'll check back and see how well GPT does Netbox, right? And we'll see if the service actually gets spun up, which I guess is the first goal. And then we'll see if it gave us the API keys, which is the second goal. And then we'll see if we can actually log in with the creds to provide us, which is the third goal. If it does all three, I will be very impressed. All right, that's like 30 minutes to an hour's worth of work. We're back, and it seems like it kicked off the install after doing some research. And let's interrupt it and ask for a quick little status update and see how far along it's come. I respond. Let's see. So it's checking the Netbox host. Netbox files are on. Config pile exists. So app is not fully set up. Big install command. Okay, continue. All right. And that install command being broken was basically me interrupting it in the middle of its work. So I got impatient there. I was like, what's going on? But right now it's reviewing the config files. Let's see. We're going to let it keep doing its thing, and we'll be back in a little bit. So it looks like it is done with the database install, and now the model is setting up the users. So I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. It's making good progress so far. Good job, ChatGPT 5.4. OpenAI cooked with this one, boys. So I think I got stuck there. I noticed a lot of time if it's in a console session and the console returns complete, it doesn't necessarily cleanly escape it. So it's not fully autonomous that they have to come back around and, kind of poke it with a stick a little bit. But let's see, install and configure netbox on root at netbox. They're not enabled. So it was installed, but the service is not enabled. So it's checking that. And we had some database issues. Let's see if we can solve that. So we found some database issues. Looks like it fixed those. And some dependency issues. Looks like it fixed those. We stepped away for a few more minutes, and when we came back, netbox was installed, or so it claims. Let's go ahead and validate the results of that, right? We'll grab the IP from the console real quick. This is the one we want. And then we'll hop back on over to our web interface. And we'll try to resolve it. When we try to resolve it, it pulls up Nginx. When we try to resolve it on the HTTPS, you'll see that error we saw earlier. So something's not working quite right. So the prompt we sent it was HTTP and HTTPS not resolved, which we checked. HTTP resolves to Nginx. Is proxy enabled properly? Netbox expects of HTTPX endpoint for web interface to work. Have Nginx use a self-signed start and reverse proxy netbox interface properly. Let's see if we can figure that out. Again, another task that might have taken me like 30 minutes to an hour. Or I would have just spun up a Docker container, you know. That point, I would have just been like, Docker compose, baby. Claims completed. Let's verify. We're back on the web interface. Click advance. We click proceed. And that box is up. Oh, good job, Chatgpt. You needed some help, some guidance, but you did it. In time, seat time, 5 to 10 minutes overall. Real world time, 30 to 45. Very nice. Very nice. Now, let's verify those admin creds work. What's the username here? Let's see. Username is agent user. Password is whatever that is. All right. And then we hit sign in. Ooh, and it worked. Okay. Okay, this is good. This is very good. I am impressed. Hand holding aside, I am very impressed. Chatgpt 5.4 Codex. For $20 a month, you are worth your ask. Now it's time for overtime. I didn't think we'd get that far this quick. Right? Right? Are you impressed? You're telling me that's not impressive? You wrote into the computer to log into another computer and install a service. And for the most part, it did it on its own. It probably could have one-shotted it if I hadn't got it and pasted it and interrupted it. But regardless, it still achieved the goal of its own accord. Future! We in the future, right? I'm not sure you're aware of how mind-blowing that is. We're living in the future, okay? We can talk to the computer like Star Trek and it will do things. We already got a Star Trek communicator. Now we've got the language-based computing. Next we'll have super intelligent AI. And then we'll have matter dissolvers, and we'll have to decide whether or not having your atoms ripped apart and put back together constitutes you being a new entity in this reality. The answer is no, you're you regardless. But it will be something we philosophically debate. So this is probably going to take a while. So here's the new prompt. This is overtime. Do research on the Netbox API, then create a doc called netboxusage.md. Then load the skill creator skill and create a Netbox manager skill. This skill should describe uses for a Python script that allows you to interface with the Netbox API. Script should support command line arguments for extended usage. Script should have logging metrics and error recovery logic. Present a plan for review before writing the code. And then we just kick that off. So its plan is pretty good here, right? And what it wants to do is scaffold the NetBox Manager skill in Markdown and Index, which what it wants to do is scaffold the skill in Markdown and TypeScript, which is how Opencode handles its skill deployments. Then the backbone or the engine of the skill itself is going to be a Python script with, regular CRUD commands, right? A couple other ones. And it's also going to run the skill with a HTTP client layer. And the client layer is probably just to gather metrics and stuff like that. Basically, I like the design. I like the design it came up with. So let's go with proceed. That's a design I use for the Proxmox skill, and it works really good for managing Proxmox. So I'm not reinventing the wheel. Heck, I didn't even invent the wheel. The AI learned the wheel from the masses of all of humanity, and now I'm telling it to apply the wheel. And it's going. It's writing the code and preparing the skill. And it looks like our API keyed worked because it's actually getting responses back from the API. And it looks like it's done with the skill. So we're about to put that skill to the test. In my last video, I mentioned my network discovery skill that I built out. And I built that out kind of because I planned on building this out. I was kind of thinking one or two moves ahead there. And we're going to use the network discovery skill to gather some data. And then we're going to use the netbox skill to send data up to netbox. And now we should have a way for us to keep track of our network. Right? Pretty cool there. So it's working. Let's go ahead and put it to the test. Let's benchmark it. It learned a new skill. Let's see how good it can use its new skill, right? Go ahead and load up Opencode. So we got Opencode loaded back up here, and let's do this. Load the network discovery skill and do a map of the local network. Save it to a network scan.txt. Then use the network scan.txt as a source of truth to document netbox using the netbox manager skill. So we told it to just load its recent skill, load another skill, do a network scan, and then start documenting netbox. So in the background, we'll turn it off, and then we'll start refreshing that box and see. Let's wait and see what it starts doing. Network scan.txt. So it's running the scan. So it says the scan is empty. All right. Let's see what's going on with it. I'm going to leave this in there because it's not exactly, sometimes things go left when you ask the AI to do stuff, and this is valuable information, if you want to try to deploy it and use it. It's not all 100%, right? So it ran the network scan, got an empty result back, realized that a network scan with an empty result doesn't make sense, and, figured out its script wasn't, the scan script it had written wasn't working. So now it's going to try to do it again. All right. So it got back 49 results. All right. And now it's trying to figure out how it's going to structure the API calls to Netbox in order to create my network. And let's see if it runs into any API issues. All right, it's trying to figure out how to use the API right now. And it's trying to figure out different ways it can use the provided tools, First is going to try it just using regular command line. It might go back in and rewrite the harness script. It might write another script that calls the harness script as a wrapper. I've seen it do lots of interesting stuff. So it looks like it's done. First, let's validate the output. We have ran a subnet scan, saved it to the network, and used the scan as the source of truth to document the LAN and netbox through network manager skill. Discovered host, the successful scan came from the skilled local VM. The first attempt failed because adaptive selection shows a missing engine in the system Python environment. Right? So first attempt scaled. Let's see. Missing dependencies. Let's see what I documented. So it claims that it stored these underneath DSIM sites or under IPIM prefixes. So let's hop on over and let's see. Back on NetBox. And let's see, virtualization, IPAM, addresses. Oh, this is nice. It gives us our vendors, our host name, MAC addresses. It's not quite perfect, it's missing some information. Probably could be filled out better. But again, that's a lot of info. I like the confidence core. All right, so you can be like, I kind of feel ishy about that. Let's pull it up. All right, discovered network prefix. So it's a good starting point, right? I definitely could, I guess, refine this a little bit. It did define the network, so that's good. It defined the network scope, so that's good. It didn't define a site, it defined a site, not a site group, or a region, or a location. Didn't define tenants, but I didn't expect it to. Let's see devices. I was thinking it might put some stuff underneath devices, but I guess it went a different route with that. Right. Let's see. But again, not too bad. That'd be a good starting point, right? I could probably refine it and have it do some more automation. The host that Opencode is running on doesn't have DNS resolution, so probably getting DNS sorted, I could definitely get more information that way. I could also do TCP scanning to find different services, and then also feed it back in different ways. Basically, the AI works pretty good, but it is not like a pristine 100%. It got everything right the first try. It definitely takes steering. It definitely takes overview. It's definitely going to take multiple attempts to achieve what you want. And sometimes it's faster and sometimes it's not. It really depends on what you're trying to do. But that's part of the fun of this, Each day the AI gets more capable at stuff. A year ago it wasn't able to manage systems to automatically install stuff. It is now able to do that today with some hand holding. Give it another year, probably won't take any hand holding. And a year past that, who knows?